Imagine a thin beam of light, silent, invisible, and lethal. Its name is Eitan, and it is the world's first operational laser interception system already in operational use by the IDF, shooting down incoming rockets, mortars, and UAVs, saving lives and saving money. It is a laser system that changes the cost-benefit equation in the air defenses, and everyone wants to know how it will work, and some are asking if this is why the Air Force is already looking past the F-35s to see what will come next. So the new system is already seen as a major competitor for the Iron Beam anti-rocket defensive system, as it does not need to have its ammunitions reloaded the way that the Iron Dome does, and it costs a tiny fraction of the amount of money for each shot. We're talking about just a few shekels to down a rocket or a drone. So today, we will get to know the new Eitan laser system and answer questions including whether the whole world is about to enter a new phase of warfare and whether we'll soon be shooting down missiles over Iran like they did in the Star Wars movies. As most people know, air defense and the ability to shoot down incoming weapons before they can get to their targets and to cause death and destruction is a very old concept. In the United States, it was defined characteristically by the national security policy during the Ronald Reagan administration in the 1980s. And here in Israel, we also started developing the tools and the institutions that would need to be part of this effort around the same time. In this current war, Israel took technological weapon programs and rushed them into use on the battlefield, using real-world conditions to hit the fast-forward button on the usual testing and the integration process that would usually take many years. The results speak for themselves, and the whole world is impressed by the Israeli defensive systems. Our friends are eager to learn more, and our mutual enemies are scrambling to find out how they can counter this latest revolution in armed conflict. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. I'm your host Yair Pinto, and today we'll take a closer look at the new technological developments in the Israeli military. We all know Israel is a technology powerhouse, and we have capabilities straight out of a sci-fi movie. And today, we'll focus on the Israeli laser for a moment and its use in this war. But a moment before we begin, I want to call on you to keep spreading the truth, share and follow us. It's very important to make sure that you share our content so that we can reach as many people as possible. And if you haven't yet clicked the subscribe button, now is the time. Now, imagine for a moment that an aircraft that costs tens of millions of dollars, carrying missiles and bombs that cost millions more, the plane is flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet, close to the edge of outer space. Suddenly, without any warning from the radar systems, the metal skin on the warhead of one of the missiles that are hanging under the wings of this plane begins to heat up, and within milliseconds, the temperature is so high that it causes the explosives in the warheads to blow up, destroying the aircraft and ending the life of the pilot, who never even knew that the plane was under attack. Does this sound like science fiction? Well, maybe it is, but some are saying that this is just a preview of what war will look like in the coming decade. Will it mean the end of human pilots flying ridiculously expensive aircrafts that are armed with missiles and bombs? Let me know what you think. Or will it mean that in the future, the only missiles that even have a chance of getting through air defensive systems will be those flying at hypersonic speeds? Another question. Will war itself become so fast that humans won't be able to keep up and require computers that are powered by artificial intelligence to keep track of it? All of these questions will have to wait for the answers, but here in Israel, no one is waiting for anything. Rafael's Eitan system has already intercepted drones in combat. Unlike the Iron Dome system, which costs tens of thousands of dollars for each interception, of one rocket that probably costs only a few $100s to manufacture by the terrorists, these systems only cost 3 shekels per shot. That's less than $1. This is less than $1 to defend Tel Aviv from an incoming missile. This is a massive change in the conduct of war, and nothing will ever be the same. Once again, I'm Yair Pinto, and this is a special edition of Boots on the Ground, bringing you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel. And today, we'll bring you all the information that you asked for and sent so many questions about the Israeli laser systems. And before we start, give a click to the subscribe button and make sure to hit the like and leave a comment. So let's start with what's already in use. And after that, we'll detail a bit how it works. And then we'll reveal what the Eitan system, set to enter full operational use in the beginning of 2026, can really change, first in the defensive array and later in offense. The Israeli Ministry of Defense and Rafael reported that during the Swords of Iron War, dozens of lasers interceptions were carried out for the first time. This is the first time, as far as I know, that an air defensive laser system was used operationally in Israel and likely anywhere else in the world. So the announcement by the Ministry of Defense and Rafael surprised the whole industry because the Iron Beam laser system and its entry into operational service was supposed to take place only at the end of 2025. However, the operational interceptions reported this week by the Ministry of Defense and Rafael were not carried out by Iron Beam, but by another system with a much lower power output of 10 to 30 kilowatts. So, what is unique about this new system? It all comes down to one word, and that word is money. Israel currently intercepts short-range missiles using the Iron Dome at a cost of $50,000 to $100,000 per interceptor. These interceptors are also used to down unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and additionally, dozens of cruise missiles and UAVs that were launched from Iran and Yemen over the last 2 years were also intercepted by the air defensive systems and the missiles that were fired from an Israeli Air Force fighter jets at a cost of millions of dollars for the missiles themselves as well as for the aircraft and also the flying hours. Unlike these kinetic systems, interception by a laser is far cheaper, just a few dollars per activation. The laser will not replace the existing systems anytime soon, but will complement them and operate in combination. Its advantage is expected to be in dealing with small and short-range threats, such as mortars and rockets up to 8 kilometers of range, which existing systems are struggling to handle. However, according to the Ministry of Defense, Iron Beam will also handle UAVs and also cruise missiles. The savings are already coming in. Throughout the Swords of Iron War, Israel succeeded in intercepting between 30 and 40 UAVs using laser systems. Throughout the fighting, the information was kept a secret, and the media was prohibited from publishing it. Most of the laser interceptions were Hezbollah UAVs, but some were intercepted from other areas. The system operated by the new Tactical Air Defensive Battalion established in the Northern Command and was not operationally mature at the beginning of the war, and it underwent a series of changes and improvements during it. Later, this year, another system, Magen Or, which is Iron Beam and was developed by Rafael Elbit and the Ministry of Defense, is expected to enter the operational use. It is a much more sophisticated and more powerful system than what initially was operated from the Iron Dome batteries. The laser interception system is considered a game changer in Israel's war against terror organizations because over the years, the cost of interceptors was many times higher than the cost of the UAVs and also the missiles that the terrorist organizations was firing against us. But there are also some disadvantages regarding the new system, as Magen Or is not very powerful compared to a chemical laser, and its power decreases with distance. Its maximum range currently reaches about 10 kilometers compared to 40 kilometers for the Iron Dome, and unlike Iron Dome, you cannot fire laser beams at several threats simultaneously. Another significant drawback is that lasers are almost neutralized under poor visibility conditions, including clouds, rain, or haze. This is why Magen Or does not yet operate independently, but as part of the Iron Dome batteries, relying on their warning and on their interception systems. And according to the IDF spokesperson's unit, the laser systems are an additional defensive layer of energy weapon systems that are being deployed and developed at the Ministry of Defense, in addition to the Magen Or system, which is being developed these days and is expected to be delivered to the IDF this year. During the war, the Air Force, and within it, the men and women of the Air Defensive Array, learned and also developed the laser systems in the field, achieving particularly high interception successes that saved civilian lives and protected national assets. Last October, the Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir, then serving as Director General of the Ministry of Defense, signed an order for the supply of thousands of Magen Or. Iron Beam is its commercial name, and the systems from Rafael and also Elbit, the companies of manufacturing of arms in Israel, in the sum of about 2 billion shekels. Elbit manufactured the laser itself, and Rafael manufactured the entire system around it. The price of a complete unit is about 200,000 shekels, and after this initial investment, the lifetime costs of the system are relatively low. And once again, the pre-shot costs are an epic bargain. Another factor is that all of this is the advance of associated technologies such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and wireless communications. So if we look at contemporary battlefields like Ukraine, this latest war that Israel fought, and a potential near-future war in Taiwan, the equipment that all of these conflicts saw included tanks, aircraft, artillery, and ships. These are tools that have been around the world for a very long time. But new tools, including drones and now lasers, are also becoming common on the battlefield, and Israel must stay on the cutting edge of these developments in order to ensure our security and deter aggression. Many of the new technologies allow the militaries that operate them to use far fewer human soldiers, as well as much smaller and more sophisticated machines that achieve lethal results in a much shorter time frame than anything that we've ever seen before. Older legacy systems and platforms that cost enormous amounts of money and several years to design and to build can be wiped out in minutes by relatively cheap, precise munitions. Think about Operation Spiderweb, the Ukrainian drone strike which destroyed or disabled almost 1/3 of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. That's the kind of thing that we should expect more of the going forward in the next rounds of battles around the world, and Israel has already faced similar attacks from Hezbollah drone swarms in this war. Therefore, today, there will be a need to look 360 degrees at threats and targets that will come from every direction. Against such a threat, we have today laser technology systems and other types of energy which are not being detailed. So the defense market points to the possibility of answering regarding those other types of energy weapons, namely microwaves. I'm not talking about the little box in your kitchen that you use to warm your breakfast or your burrito. I'm talking about highly sophisticated transmitters that can fry a computer circuit from miles away, leaving the sophisticated machines that relied on it unable to function completely. Those kinds of weapons are being worked on by several different countries around the world because of the limitations of laser systems, which can only shoot down one incoming threat at a time. So if a rocket salvo or a drone swarm is launched, you need a number of systems equal to the number of simulators and to the threats. Basically, for each drone, you need an interceptor. By contrast, air defensive means using microwaves can neutralize critical electronic components of the enemy's attack. For example, UAV swarms can, in a single intercept, be all terminated. Once again, these systems are still being developed, and for now, lasers are still at the cutting edge, and Israel is on the cutting edge of lasers. And according to an official that is familiar with the Iron Beam's development, the tests included successful interception in various threats, including rockets, mortars, UAVs. Thus, it was proving that the system is capable of dealing with a wide array of threats while maintaining high accuracy and rapid response capability. The successes in the trials constitute a significant milestone in demonstrating the operational maturity of the technology and marks further progresses in realizing this vision. And according to the plan, by the end of the year, the first operational system will be delivered to the IDF, coming off Rafael's production lines, and will serve them in the initial integration process. In parallel, work continues on the production of additional systems slated to be delivered to the IDF gradually during 2026. This process is intended to ensure continuity of learning, improvement, and absorption so that the system can integrate optimally as part of Israel's multi-layer defensive array. This will also include training dedicated IDF personnel who will operate and maintain the system, establishing the infrastructure that is required for its operational development, and adapting combat and operational methods. Rafael has extensive experience integrating systems and absorbing them into the field, including capabilities to support them at every stage and everywhere, even in staging areas and in batteries. The engineers and developers are in the field and know how to analyze various findings retrospectively, update versions online, and provide continuous responses. And here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on all these developments in the technological area of the IDF and Israel's defensive systems, especially lasers. And we want to call on you to help us spread the truth. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Now, there is something else that I want to invite you to participate in, and that's the process of Israel's recovery. So from all the hardships and setbacks that we've suffered in the last 2 years of war, as 2025 comes to a close, Israel's people still need you more than ever. Nearly 2 years after the war broke out, families are still displaced. Soldiers are still defending the homeland, and millions are struggling to make ends meet. So Meir Panim is standing in the gap by feeding the hungry, supporting Holocaust survivors, caring for teens at risk, and lifting up the brave men and women of the IDF. This year alone, they have served more than 2.6 million meals, supported over 100,000 IDF soldiers, delivered 500,000 care packages, and helped thousands of families rebuild their lives. But the need is still great. This war saw over 100,000 Israelis displaced from their homes, from their schools, and from their work. The government estimates that there are 2.6 million people, almost 1 in 4 Israelis, living below the poverty line, and every night more than 1 million children go to bed hungry. This is your moment to make a difference. Every dollar provides hope, dignity, and real help to those who need it most. So visit bless-israel.org and give generously today. Again, that's bless-israel.org. Together, we can bless the people of Israel in their hour of need. Now, let's get back into all the developments of the Iron Beam laser-based air defensive system. It was developed over time by Rafael in cooperation with Elbit, which is responsible for developing this laser itself, while Rafael built the supporting hardware, the software, and the integrations components. It is based on solid-state electronic laser with a power of about 100 kilowatts. Once again, the cost per interception is estimated at only a few shekels, maybe $1, and is almost entirely accounted for by the cost of the tiny amount of electricity required to operate the system. By comparison, a single Iron Dome interception cost about $50,000, and the rockets and the UAVs that Hamas and Hezbollah and other terrorist groups keep firing at Israel only cost a few $100s to make per one. So, these laser-based interceptors will allow a dramatic change in the economy balance against the enemies. It is capable of intercepting incoming threats at ranges of up to 10 kilometers using a powerful laser beam that cuts the missile's steel, penetrates its warhead, and affects the explosive materials inside. That is straightforward enough for most of you, but some people sent us questions which were much more detailed. So let's get into the technical details a little more to satisfy those people and maybe others who were too shy to ask the question. So the laser system is based on one of the most efficient physical phenomenon for converting energy, which is called controlled photon emission. At the heart of every laser system is an active medium, most of them sophisticated glass optical or dopant fiber, embedded with atoms of a rare element such as erbium or ytterbium. Correct me if I'm saying this word wrong. When a fiber is fed electrical energy, usually via laser diodes, the atoms enter an excited state. A single photon passing through the fiber can trigger a chain reaction of stimulated emission, in which each atom emits an additional photon at the same wavelength and in the same direction. So this process, a highly coherent light beam, a necessary property to focus onto a tiny point. Okay, you with me? So after the beam is generated, it is routed through mirrors and linear optics, and in advanced systems like Magen O, it is divided into dozens or hundreds of tiny beams using a phase control system and adaptive optics. Each beam is adjusted so that together they focus precisely on the same point on the target. The result is exceptionally high energy delivered to a single pixel on the target body, and that is the secret of the laser destructiveness. The moment such a beam strikes metal, glass, or plastic, it converts electromagnetic energy directly into heat. This process is almost instantaneously, without an intermediate shockwave stage, so the temperature at the point of impact can rise within milliseconds to thousands of degrees Celsius, far beyond the material's melting point. In practice, this causes vaporization, melting, or thermal expansion that leads to a local explosion. With a rocket or a missile mounted on the wing of an aircraft, this can ignite the warhead. With a drone, hitting a mortar or an electronic component will disable it, causing it to crash down to Earth. So the Magen O system also includes an advanced optomechanical assembly with a digitally controlled rotating turret that allows the beam to be aimed at changing angles at every moment. Every rotation, every microdegree is computed in real time by a fire control computer that receives feedback from thermal sensors, infrared cameras, and LiDAR. When a target is detected, the system conducts real-time tracking at speeds of hundreds of thousands of measurements per second in order to keep the beam exactly on the right spot on the target's body. Another critical component in this system is the cooling mechanisms. Because a high-power laser consumes hundreds of kilowatts of electricity, significant internal heat is generated and must be removed. So for this purpose, the system is equipped with water-based coolers and active exhausts, as well as internal condensate cavities, negative pressure ventilation systems, and heat exchangers. Without efficient cooling, the optical elements themselves, including mirrors and lenses, could also break. In parallel, a practical stable power source is required, so to operate Magen Or, industrial generators are installed to supply direct current to high-power biode converters. An uninterruptible power array ensures continuity even during brief power outages, and the design separates control voltages from laser voltages to prevent leakage or short circuits. So the system is operated by Israel's air defensive array and is connected to data from early warning systems. It can also operate autonomously without any kind of human intervention. So once lock-on is achieved, the beam fires and the interception occurs at the speed of light without the delay of missile launch. The combination of quantum optical principles, advanced robotical control, engineering cooling systems, and precise fire computation turns Magen Or into a significant technological revolution. The beam's power, measured in tens of hundreds of kilowatts, is so high that at ranges of up to 10 or 8 kilometers, it can breach densely metal within seconds. In the future, according to assessments, the power can be increased even further to create tactical lasers that will intercept ballistic missiles in the early phases of their flight. The vision is a system deployed at sea, in the air, or in space, capable of intercepting any physical threat using light energy alone, and Israel is currently the first country in the world to achieve a successful combat trial of such systems, but we should not assume that we will have the monopoly on this new technology for very long. In any case, I hope that this was detailed enough for the science enthusiasts, and I definitely learned a few words and a few new things while reporting about this laser. And here at Boots on the Ground, we will continue to bring you all the most detailed information about what's happening in Israel. And what we need for you in order to help us out is to make sure you like, share, and subscribe to TBN Israel on YouTube so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Thank you so much. If you want to help us more, you can share this video with somebody that wants to know what's happening in Israel. And once again, the Iron Beam system was deployed for the first time during the current war, and the technology demonstrated capability in a series of successful tests, while the war accelerated the development process. So, the system will not replace existing systems for now, but it will integrate as an additional defensive layer against short-range threats, operating initially at ranges below the capability threshold of the Iron Dome system, focusing on drones and small UAVs that are launched at short ranges, and this will allow the Iron Dome to focus on other threats and to achieve better resource utilization. The Air Force will manage coordination between systems and determine which system will be activated against each threat. Although this system is scheduled to be operational in the near future, there is a vision for it to continue to be developed and upgraded, which will require the investment of large sums of money, scientific and engineering manpower, and various other resources. So the Ministry of Defense has already signed a major deal of about 2 billion shekels to expand purchasing, with the understanding that this is just the beginning of a process that will continue for many years. So it's important to mention that the Iron Dome went through a similar process, and the system is much more sophisticated and capable than it was when it was just coming into the scene. Lessons were learned from engagements where it was utilized, and those lessons were applied to later upgrades of these systems, including both the hardware and the software. So the evolution of the Iron Beam will take the same course, and there's no way to know how powerful it can become in the future. For now, the goals are to increase the interception ranges and improve the capability against larger UAVs, and gradually make the transition to a serial production. So our friends will benefit from Israel's breakthrough, while our mutual enemies will be forced to try and find new ways to work around it. And the next time someone asks you, why America and other Western countries should support the Jewish state of Israel and what they get in return, this is a very good point to respond with. In any case, I hope that you enjoyed this report and learned a few things about the new Iron Beam laser-based air defensive system. So if you still have questions about it, please leave them in the comments section and we will research more and create another video with more developments. As I said, we at Boots on the Ground will continue to bring you all the information from Israel, and I call on you to share, like, subscribe, but more than that, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN